Hi, Nick from Old Fashioned Nights, and today I'm going to show you how to replace a blade on your table saw. Now, whether your table saw blade gets dull or you're putting on a different blade, you're going to have to learn how to change a table saw blade. So for me, I have three different blades. I have the one currently on here, which is for ripping. This 60 tooth one here is more for finishing fine cuts. And then I have this flat curved blade, which I use when I want to do grooves. I don't want to deal with any sort of the ridges that come from a traditional blade. So this video is specifically about my Dewalt table saw. It's a DW745, but from my experience, this is the same steps for like 90% of job site saws out there. Now let's go ahead and change our table saw blade. First thing you want to do is turn off your table saw. In addition to turning it off, you also want to unplug it from the wall. Essentially, you just want to make sure that the energy sources are removed from your table saw when you're changing the blade. And one thing that I've been getting into a better habit of doing is once I unplug the machine to work on the changing the blade, I like to physically place the plug itself on top of my table saw. So it just allows me to see it and then make sure that it's fully unplugged once I'm changing the blade. The next step is to clear the tabletop. It just makes it easier to work with. I also like to move my fence as far away from the blade as I can. The next step, you want to remove the throat plate. For my setup, I have the zero clearance insert, and I just basically put my finger into the opening and pop it out. But if you still have the factory Dewalt throat plate, there will be this lock and unlock switch on there. So just make sure you switch it to the unlock position, and again, put your finger in the opening and pop it out. Next step is you want to fully raise your blade. Basically, you want to get the blade as high as it can go so you can have access to the arbor as well as the arbor nut. There is the arbor nut. And then on the other side is the arbor. Now you want to locate your tools that you'll be using to remove the blade. For most Dewalts, they're located on the side. You'll have to unscrew a wing nut to get access to them. Here is your open-ended wrench. And here is your close-ended wrench. Another good thing to get in the habit is once you remove these tools is to put the wing nut back, because if you're like me, you'll lose it. I've done that plenty of times. For step 6, you want to place the wrenches on the arbor nut as well as the arbor. Basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to break the nut off of the arbor. So you're going to take your open-ended wrench and then place that on the arbor. You know you're on there when you're able to basically move the blade as I am. Now you're going to take your close-ended wrench. For this one, it does matter the orientation. You can see that the bend is facing towards the table. So I'm going to go ahead with the bend facing towards the blade now, place that on the arbor nut. And there I go. I have both wrenches ready to go, and I'm going to get ready to break that nut loose. Now we're going to break the arbor nut loose. What I like to do is place the open-ended wrench with my left hand back all the way and then holding that in a stationary position, I take my right hand with the close-ended wrench, and I basically turn towards myself to break that loose. And then if I need to, I'll readjust. Again, take the open-ended wrench, place that back as far as I can go. Use that to secure. And then with my right hand, I break the nut loose with a close-ended wrench. For step 8, I'm going to remove the nut and the clamp washer. For the nut, I'm basically just going to use my hand to unscrew it and then place it on the table. And then I'm going to take the clamp washer, take it off the arbor, and again place it on the table. You'll notice the clamp washer is concave, and that's the end you want facing towards the blade. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the table. Here's a little pro tip for you that kind of blew my mind when I found out about it. So if you drop the nut when you're unscrewing it into the sawdust exhaust port, and say you can't reach it easily with a finger, if you take that close-ended wrench, and on the other side of it is this little nub. And what that's meant for is to reach down into that opening and basically hook the nut and then drag it out. So you can see here, I got it hooked onto it. And once it's hooked on, I'm basically going to slide it to the front of the table, applying downward pressure to hold it in place. And I'm just going to slide it on up. And there you go. A little pro tip for you if you ever need to get that nut. I'll give it a thumbs up here. Sorry to interrupt the video, but again, if you like and enjoy this content, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and helps me keep making these videos. And if you got something to say, go ahead, say in the comments, and call me an idiot if you want. You're not the first or the last, so let's get back to it. Now for this step, you're basically just going to take the old blade and put it aside. You can see that the teeth of the blade face towards the front of the saw. I'll find myself sometimes trying to remember, all right, which way do the teeth go? So I like just to make note of it and then just lay it down on a table in the way that it would churn with the teeth facing towards me. For step 10, I'm going to take my new blade, place it on the arbor. Again, I want the teeth facing towards the front. So I have the teeth face that way, and I'm just going to slide it onto the arbor. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the compression washer. Again, you want the concave side facing towards the blade. And then I'm going to take the arbor nut and I'm going to hand tighten it onto the arbor. For step 13, I'm going to stage my wrenches for tightening. I'm going to take the open-ended wrench and place it on the arbor. And then I'm going to take my close-ended wrench and place it on the arbor nut, again with the side bent facing towards the blade. Now it's time to tighten the nut. And again, I'm going to take my left hand and place it on the open end of the wrench that's holding the arbor, and my right hand that's on the arbor nut, and I'm basically just going to pull them together. Now you don't want to over tighten the arbor nut. You want to use a nice firm pressure and force. It's tough to explain, but you just don't want to wrench on it. You just want nice firm pressure just to make sure it's held in place, but you don't want it too tight. Now it's time to reinstall the throat plate. Again, if you're using the Dewalt factory one, make sure it's in the unlocked position before you put it in, and then lock it. And then I like to just drop my table saw blade lower by just turning the crank. Now it's time to clear the table saw top, remove the old blade, and then bring the fence back in. And for your final step, just plug it back into the wall. All right, that should be everything you need to know to change a table saw blade. So again, be safe, think it through. And if you wouldn't mind hitting the like and subscribe button, it really helps the channel as well as helps things grow. And if you have any comments or suggestions or other videos you're looking for in the future, just let me know. Again, be safe.